Hey, AJ here from Agentic Builders. We build automations powered by AI, but not the way most people do. Most people try to launch a polished system from day one, and it almost always breaks. So if you're trying to solve a real world problem, you need to learn before you build. And learning means prototyping quickly, messy, iterative, but that's why we don't jump right into tools like n8n. We start smaller and easier. We start with tools like Google App Scripts. We use Google Sheets. Why? Because most teams are already in Sheets. Your workflow might already be in Sheets. So the fastest way to test an automation is inside the tool your team actually uses. So in this video, I'm going to show you how we went from prototype to production-ready agentic systems with zero wasted setup. It starts with a real-world problem. Not a toy project or not some fancy it's a business use case with real constraints. So let's walk through it, starting with the earliest version of the prototype, all the way to how we're preparing a scalable automation. First up, prototyping is not about elegance. It's about speed and clarity. So we use Google App Scripts because it's built into Sheets and it gives us full programmatic control. You can read, write data, you can connect to APIs, all without leaving your sheet. And if it works here, you've got proof that it'll work in a more robust system. So let me show you an actual use case we built for a link building agency. They had domain lists and they needed to find content managers, editors, marketing people at scale. Normally, they'd have a team of 10 to 15 people prospecting manually every day, but they came to us and asked, how do we automate this without losing quality? The challenge, it's not just finding any contact, it's finding the right person at each site and doing it in a way that mimics human level decision making without any of the human errors or the human time involved. So we broke down the process step by step. Is it a good site? Who do we contact? How do we find them? Where do we pull emails from? It turns out no single tool was really giving us the best output. So we created a fallback chain of first we'll try something like Apollo. It's an email finder. If that doesn't work, we'll try a secondary API. If that doesn't work, we'll try a tertiary API. So with this kind of flow, we ended up thinking to ourselves, okay, well, if it's not just one tool, what's the smartest order? And then once we have the contacts, how do we rank them? Is it the right job title? Are there better ones from the same domain? So we ended up creating a priority system where once we find the contact name, we want to prioritize someone that's an SEO manager, and then a content editor, and then a marketing manager, and then an editor, and then higher up roles like CEO, founder. So by the time we were done, the agency doesn't just have a contact, it has the best available contact. And checking email deliverability is important. Not all email delivery tools are that accurate, so we actually had to find two of them. We use Million Verifier and we use Instantly. Million Verifier checks all, and then Instantly checks just the catch-all because it rescues about 40% of emails that are considered risky. Now, this is where it gets interesting because instead of wasting budget verifying everything twice, we routed only the catch-alls to the expensive tool. In essence, this is what smart prototyping is. It's not just to work, it's engineering it in a way that works, saves money, and is still highly, highly accurate. Overall, when you zoom out on this step-by-step automation, we're not just replacing a task, we're actually replacing the entire human's involvement within said task. And at scale, this really matters. This client wasn't just doing 50 domains. They were working on 4,000 at a time for each client. So hundreds of thousands of URLs per month they're processing. Overall, this particular script goes through Apollo, checks find email, checks Hunter, takes all the emails, checks Million Verifier, checks Instantly. And then once you end up with the full list, we've got emails for about 75% of these domains, and not just one contact, sometimes 2 and 3 and ranked by relevance. So from there, we just add a simple label to a row, to a column that says send or don't send. Super clear, no guesswork. Could we have tried to just do a full agentic automation end-to-end workflow from the beginning? Sure. But we wanted to test what actually worked first. So by zooming in step by step, we discovered things that we wouldn't have caught in a high-level workflow. Like finding out that Apollo gives too many emails sometimes, which would have made our workflow too expensive. So we had to split it up into flows of a flow 1, flow 2, depending on list size. The part that most people miss when doing this kind of workflow automation is the logic inside each step. It's not just surface level flow. Automation is not about connecting boxes. It's about understanding the steps within each box. You can have the prettiest flowchart in the world, but if one node is flawed, the entire outcome suffers. And that's why we take the time to break down each step, stress test it, and ask, is this actually the best way to do it? Too often, people rush into no code thinking that it's visual and simple, but complexity is hiding within. So instead of pretending what we're doing is clean and simple, we have to treat it like what it is. It's a system that needs to be observed and adapted. That's why prototyping with Google Sheets is so powerful, because keeps you close to the data. You're not abstracted behind layers of tools. You're right there watching everything happen, and you can update it quickly. So once it's working in Google Sheets, then you can talk about turning it into a scalable system. So yeah, let's shift gears. I want to show you a second prototype and actually build it from scratch. So this is a totally new use case. In this one, imagine you're dealing with exports from multiple CRMs like HubSpot, MailChimp, and Stripe. All messy formats. You have different column names, inconsistent dates, duplicate rows. It's a nightmare for operations teams. And instead of having someone do something manually or spinning up a whole SaaS, I went to a Google Sheet and wrote a script to clean and merge it. I started by prompting Claude in this case. You can read the prompt, but in short, it says, I have 3 sheets, one with lead data, one with email campaign data, one with payment records. Merge and standardize it. Claude gave me a fully working script that cleans the dates, dedupes the leads, joins the matching records. It even created a new lead summary sheet, all from that single structured prompt. Now, the key here wasn't the script. It was the ability to prototype an actual solution in 10 minutes. Now that I've got this reusable base, I can tweak it and expand it. Let me walk you through some hardships in the middle, though. Once you ask Claude or ChatGPT to do something, it'll create some code for you here. So you take this code and you copy it, you move over to extensions, you open up app scripts. You take that code here, this will usually be blank, you replace whatever's here, copy paste over it, click save, and then run. It asks for permissions and then you run it. If you end up getting errors, you're gonna see an error message down here. You copy that error, you push it back into Claude, it'll work on the error, and then you copy paste over, and eventually you get it working. That's what happened in this case when it was saying that it needed the sheet names and it wasn't matched. So after one round of back and forth, we got something that was working quite well. That's powerful. Not because it's perfect, because it just works and it only took a few minutes to build. Now, multiply that by 10 small workflows. You're saving yourself or people hours a week every single time. This is where prototyping shines. You don't need a product roadmap. You don't need a business you just need a business problem and some data. In this case, I didn't even need to ask the client what they wanted. I just showed them what was possible. So, here, once you start building, the conversation switches from can we do this to what can we add to this. So when you're working in a live environment like Google Sheets, the feedback loop is instant. Something didn't match, fix the sheet. Something didn't format right, update the script. You're not waiting for a dev team. You're not logging Jira tickets. You're shipping. Now that this script is working, I can clone it, repurpose it, plug it into larger agentic systems. So, prototyping becomes a building block to systems. That's the progression. And you didn't need to be a full stack engineer to do any of this. So you just need kind of a curiosity and a basic understanding of what's the best practice in your business. Now, this can get you quite far. This process by itself got us so far that an entire agency is running their prospecting just off this simple Google script. And we're building full AI automation based off of this workflow where you just start with the target URL and it builds lists and lists and lists and finds the emails and all that kind of stuff. So, but it wouldn't have been possible if we didn't take the time to script it out first in a simple sheet like this. So I recommend that you guys do the same. And you're probably going to get to the point where eventually you're going to hit a roadblock where things get too complex, too many bugs. You're going to need something a bit more standardized. That's where maybe we can come in. Agenticbuilders.com. You can see what we do. You can see what some of our packages are. We help you build agentic systems that actually get used, that actually work, and are actually maintainable and improve over time. So if that sounds like something interesting, check us out. This is AJ, agenticbuilders.com. Appreciate you.